Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. Welcome back to another video. Man, we probably have one of the most disgusting Dana White Contender Series cards to go over. It's gross, boys. This is just the level of competition on this card is so low level, just gross. But that's all right because you can't complain when we have a fight night on Tuesday. But here we go. We're just coming off of a good weekend. We went plus 4 units over the weekend, which was awesome. Check out my video coming out on Tuesday. It'll recap the Tatsuro Taira versus Brandon Royval card a little bit more. But man, we're back at it, back in the positive, back in the green. It was a good weekend. But yeah, I guess without further ado, we're gonna get right into it. Starting off the card is Oh, it's just disgusting, boys. We've got Muhammad Otto and Jonathan McAuliffe, and oh man, this is just so low level. Muhammad Otto, he fights. I believe he fights out of Ontario, Canada. He's been fighting in the Unified MMA, which I've never held very high. It's an organization that the competition just has never been very good. Um, Whereas Jonathan McAuliffe, he's a little better. He's an Australian-born fighter. He's fighting out of Hex MMA, so there's a lot better competition there, I believe. But starting off with Muhammad, he's just so bad. He is not a good fighter. His striking is very poor striking, super low volume. It's so bad, boys. I don't even know what we're doing at this point. I mean, isn't the season finale, the 10th episode of Dana White Contender Series supposed to be the best, the best to cap it off and start the series, end the season with a good card? This is just so gross. This is so bad, boys. Last week's was phenomenal. Last week should have been this week's, but again, what can you do? Anyway, Muhammad Otto, Canadian born fighter, fighting in Unified, or yeah, I believe it's Unified is what it's called. Not a good promotion either way. Striking is very poor, low volume, like I said. He has some grappling for sure. He's got 3 or 4 submissions on his record. He's an undefeated fighter. I want to say 5-0, yeah, 5-0 there. Um, I don't think he wins this fight in any way, shape, or form. And I say that now for sure, but anything can happen, right? He's got a puncher's chance, kinda. His striking is so bad. His grappling is so bad. But on the other side, Jonathan McAuliffe is not anything to write home about either. He's for sure better. He's got better grappling, better takedown defense, and his striking is better. He has way more power than Muhammad. So, I mean, it's just so gross, boys. So gross. What Muhammad Otto has to do here is he's got to get in there and essentially try to work on with because he has decent jujitsu. His jujitsu is about the best thing he has. So if he can get this to the ground and take Jonathan's back, he's got a shot for sure. He's got a shot at finding submission. But I think Jonathan McAuliffe, his takedown defense is way better than Muhammad Otto's takedown offense. So he'll be able to stuff takedowns. His striking isn't anything like I said to write home about. It's not that good, but it's better than Muhammad's. He's higher volume. He has a higher pace. I was watching film on both these guys today, and he has a higher pace than Muhammad for sure. So the pace will be a factor in this fight. Um, if he can keep it on the feet, and I think he can, stuff takedowns, make it dirty, land some big shots, big uppercuts. His low kicks weren't bad. I think Jonathan wins this fight. I believe he's the underdog. Let's see. Lines may not be out yet, but uh, anyway, Jonathan McAuliffe's the pick here. Muhammad Ado's so bad. He's not a good fighter. If he gets this done here, it's gonna be a Hail Mary win for him. But the pick's gonna be Jonathan. It's probably gonna be a 3-round boring fight, I would imagine. Muhammad's gonna try and grind him out with cage control and clinch control, and McAuliffe's just gonna be trying to get away and throw bombs. But the pick will be Jonathan McAuliffe by decision. once the lines come out, we'll see what we do betting wise. But I would imagine I stay far, far away from this one as far as betting goes. But again, the pick will be Jonathan McAuliffe. Moving on to the second fight. So, Julieta Martinez, there was almost zero film on this girl. The only film that I was really able to find was an old kickboxing match of hers. So she's 7-0 in MMA. I don't, from what I could tell, she did not have. I found a highlight video on her, and she hardly had any ground game. Uh, Leslie Hernandez was actually pretty impressive. She's a pretty good fighter, 4-1, fighting out of LFA, I believe, which is it's an okay uh promotion, not a bad promotion, and her nickname Dora the Destroyer. Let's go. She's gonna destroy this mother trucker. Uh, she's Leslie Hernandez. Her IQ is what stood out to me the most. I was watching one of her LFA fights. I believe it was one of her most recent ones. And she lost the first round pretty easily or handily. At least what I thought, she lost the first round. Um, and it was a complete striking war in the first round, and she lost for sure. She come out second round, and she switched up her game just on the spot. She went out there, took her opponent down. Uh, her wrestling looked pretty good. She had some jujitsu for sure. Um, she but again, she came out second round, took her down, took her opponent down, won the second round, and then going to the third, I had it 1-1. And again, Leslie goes out there and she finds a takedown. Uh, she was just super, super smart when it came to IQ. Again, Julieta Martinez, not much film on her, but from what I could tell, she was a fairly good kickboxer. Um, I just it's a tricky fight for me to call here just because of the lack of film on Julieta. But from what I saw from Leslie, and where Leslie has some ground game and grappling, and Julieta, I would imagine, doesn't have the grappling that Leslie does. The pick here is going to be Leslie for sure. I think she'll go out there. If she keeps it on the feet, she'll probably get pieced up. But her IQ is good. Again, I love the way she fought. She has good hands too. She's got really good boxing. She holds a high guard. It was honestly a phenomenal fight for her. At least the last couple that I watched. But yeah, I think she goes out there. I think she's got to get this to the ground. Um, or she's probably going to get pieced up here. So the pick is going to be Leslie Hernandez. I think I can trust her to go out there and be smart with it. Uh, take Julieta to the ground. Uh, and of course, Julieta may have some takedown defense, but as far as I've seen, she doesn't. So again, I feel like I can trust Leslie here to go out and take her down and again, probably win this fight by decision. It's probably going to be another 3-round boring fight, but I think Leslie gets it done. Let's go Dora the Destroyer. Let's go. All right. To the third fight on the card. Again, just kind of, I don't know. These guys just are not that good. Yadier Del Valle, fighting out of Cuba, I believe. And then Antonio Montero, he is fighting out of Brazil. He's been fighting in the promotion Shuto out of Brazil, which is not a bad. It's probably it's one of the bigger promotions in Brazil. Um, Yadier Del Valle, I don't know, Del Valle, I don't know how to say that, but he's going to, and I guess I don't watch, when I watch film on these guys, I keep the volume muted so I don't get swayed one way or another, so I'm not hearing the commentators pronounce these guys' names. So bear with me on that. But Yadier, what I saw, I watched 3 or 4 of his fights. There was quite a bit of film on him. His striking is so bad. He has some pretty bad striking. Um, what he wants to go do is take the guy down and take his back. Uh, that's about his whole game. He he does have some submissions. He's got it. I want to say it's a guillotine wins submission. It wasn't overly impressive. It was like in the first, I don't know, minute of the fight. And then I watched a couple of his decision wins, and he just is a grinder. He clinches the guy against the cage. Sure, he does get in some striking exchanges, and he can land some good shots, but his striking isn't very good, at least from what I saw. And then on to the on Antonio Montero side. He was not a bad fighter. He was super well rounded. His striking stood out the most for sure, but he could control guys on the ground. His jiu-jitsu wasn't bad. His wrestling was okay. He was able to get up off his back as well. He was super well-rounded. Uh, but I think if on Antonio could probably starch this dude. Depending on how his chin holds up. Antonio held some power. He looked big for featherweight, at least from what I saw. Uh, so if Antonio could stay off the cage, make the boxing dirty, but be careful with the wrestling and the takedowns. I could see Antonio, piecing him up on the feet, and even, at least from what I saw in Yadiar's film, he would go out and he would shoot sloppy takedowns, and I could see Antonio. His takedown defense wasn't bad. I could see him capitalizing on that and finding a way to get up on top of Yadiar and ground and pounding for a finish. I just don't think Yadiar is going to hang in there with this guy. Uh, Antonio again was super well rounded and Yadier really only had his wrestling, and it wasn't even that good. So for the pick here, for sure going to go with Antonio. I don't know if it goes the distance. If it doesn't go the distance, it's probably going to be by Antonio finish. So if there's a prop that looks good, depending on what the number looks there, I could see me, maybe playing something along the lines of that. It's just hard though. It's just these fights are so gross. I think probably all of them go to a decision. There might be a finish or two, but I don't think it's going to be a very impressive week. So the pick is Antonio, probably by decision. So, all right, moving on. Of course, we've got the infamous Nick Piccinini, who was supposed to fight Jack Duffy, which he did fight Jack Duffy. I believe it was on the fourth week of this season's Dana White Contender Series. Nick and Jack Duffy, they went to a decision. Nick Piccinini got the nod. It was a split decision. Dana thought Jack Duffy won. There was a super good argument for Jack Duffy to win. And it was rebooked. The Jack Duffy, Nick never got a contract, so the Jack Duffy Nick Piccinini fight was scheduled for this card. I'm super bummed we're not seeing Jack Duffy knock out here, which is super unfortunate just because he's such a good fighter. So hopefully we can see him again. But Louis Garole, yeah, I believe, is stepping in for Jack Duffy. Um, I'm a big Nick Piccinini guy. I really am. I have been for a lot of years, even before his MMA. Before he started MMA, I watched him all throughout his collegiate wrestling years. He's a phenomenal wrestler. I remember watching him pin Spencer Lee live, and man, that was crazy. He caught Spencer Lee in the near side cradle and put him on his back and pinned him. Oh, the Oklahoma State team went crazy. Coach John Smith went crazy. It was super cool. Uh, but here's the thing: is I'm a big Nick Piccinini guy when he goes out there and he wrestles. When he strikes, it gets a little scary. Like when his Jack Duffy fight was not super impressive. It was sure it was high paced, but his IQ is just not that good. There'll be times when he's fighting, and you can go watch, any of his fights. There'll be times when he's fighting that it's pretty obvious he's getting pieced up, and he just tries to stand there and bang with the guys. And so originally, when I was watching film on this, I started watching film on Lewis first, and originally I was like, oh yeah, this Lewis Gorilla guy is gonna win this fight for sure. His striking is pretty good. His takedown defense is all right, and he has some takedown offense as well. But as I got into it more and more, I watched 4 or 5 of his fights, and he just looked mediocre in each of them, if you will. His striking I ended up chalking it up to being an okay striking. He has like a super weird kung fu Muay Thai slash boxing. Like it's 3 or 4 styles mixed, and it's super interesting. He does have some power in his hands for sure, and he could catch Nick Piccinini here and drop him. But if Nick goes out there and he has a good fight IQ, he goes out there and he takes Lewis Gorilla down. Nick Piccinini will win this fight. He'll find a sub, he'll find a ground and pound, he'll win this fight. His wrestling is too good. His control on top is too good. His hips are too good. But if Nick goes out there and he tries to strike with this guy, he'll find some success, no doubt about it. He'll find success for sure. He has good boxing. He has a high guard. He has great boxing. But Lewis will find the openings because Nick Piccinini has holes in his striking game. Very obvious holes too. especially when he gets tired. And we saw that against Jack Duffy. So I think it's a no-brainer for Nick. He's got to go out there. He's got to take him down. Again, he can for sure have some success striking, but it's only a matter of time before Lewis Gorilla finds the chin, and he's got some serious power. He has what I felt like was more experience than his record says. I mean, he has a couple of 5 round fights. He's had some grueling decision wins. He has what it takes to beat Nick Piccinini if Nick Piccinini fights dumb. But if Nick Piccinini goes out there and he fights smart, he does what he's good at, which is wrestling, sets up the takedowns with his hands. He'll find a way to get this to the ground. He will get top control and he'll find a submission or he'll find a ground and pound. If not, Lewis Gorilla could definitely steal this on the scorecards. There's no doubt about it. We've seen it before, and we could definitely see it again. So what this fight boils down to is Nick Piccinini fighting smart, and it's just so hard to trust him to do that. It's a tough pick. I think I will go with Nick Piccinini for the pick, but it's super not confident. Like I said, I love Nick Piccinini. I'm a fellow wrestler. I've watched him, like I said, love the guy. And my heart says to go with him, but my gut is telling me it's going to be a close enough fight that Lewis Gorilla could get it done here. I'll still lean with the Nick Piccinini side just because that wrestling in his back pocket is just so good. And if he will use it, he'll win. He will beat this guy. It's just all about his fight IQ. So the unconfident pick, if you will, is going to be Nick Piccinini. But don't be surprised if Luis Guerrero gets this done. He could for sure. I'll be super super interested to see what the odds come out on this fight. Um, Depending on who the underdog is, I could see me laying the plus money on because I like either guy as an underdog. Um, but again, the pick will be Nick Piccinini, and it'll be interesting to see what those lines come out as. That was co-main event. So moving on to the main event of the evening, just a disgusting fight, boys. Just a gross fight. I mean, these guys are Geraldo Souza is better than Nick Klein, no doubt about it. He's a better fighter. Uh, but I don't know. And this Nick Klein, don't get him confused with Nick Klein that was on the Ultimate Fighter with the coaches is Forrest Griffin and um, Rampage Jackson. That's a different Nick Klein. So this is a new Nick Klein, blue collar Nick Klein, and he, his striking is so bad. It's so bad. His striking's so bad. He's blocky in there. He does not throw very much volume. When he does, he leaves his chin up in the air extremely high. That's where he's going to lose this fight. There's no doubt about it. Geraldo Souza, his striking wasn't bad actually. I was fairly impressed with his striking. Uh, he got tired though. He gassed for sure. And the guys he was beating early in his career were cans. They were just bums. So it's kind of hard to say how good this guy really is. I wouldn't call him overly good, you know. I think it's Geraldo Souza on the feet and Nick Klein probably on the ground. Nick Klein had some fairly okay takedowns. I gotta tread lightly with how I word these things because none of these guys on this card are very good. Um, but yeah, I think this is going to boil down to Nick Klein looking for the cage control and the takedowns, and Geraldo Souza is going to be looking for the striking. Geraldo Souza wants to keep this at distance. He's going to want to, pepper him with 1-2s, low kicks, kicks to the head, and Nick Klein probably just wants to get this to the ground. If I had to guess how this fight's going to go down, I'm going to bet. You know, Let me rephrase that. I got to stop saying I'm going to bet because that's not what I'm going to do. But the overs on all of these fights are looking pretty good, boys. Like if there's over 1.5s, if there's over 2.5s that are set at pretty good lines, you might want to lay the chalk. You might want to lay the money because I don't think any of these fights, maybe one has a finish here. I don't think it's going to be a very The two fights that have the most possibility, in my opinion, to not go the distance is Nick Piccinini and Nick Klein. The Geraldo Souza, Nick Klein, Nick Piccinini, and Luis Guerrero fights, main and main event, are the fights that have probably the best chance to get finished, but I still don't think the chance is very high. So I'll be looking for the overs in these fights. I'll be looking for fights to go the distance. I'll be looking for like Nick Piccinini's by decisions or Luis Guerrero's by decisions. Those are the lines I'm going to be looking for as far as a betting standpoint goes, because these are just disgusting fights. They really are. Right? It's such a bad card. But what do you do, I guess, right? I'm excited though. Sorry, boys. I had to get a drink of water. Um, yeah, not an overly impressive Dana White Contender Series card. I don't think any of these guys go very far in the UFC. The only one I can see going far, I guess maybe the two, is Leslie Hernandez was super impressive. And if Nick Piccinini will figure his crap out and fight smart, he could go far for sure, but we'll see. It's pretty gross. I'm not gonna lie. But what do you do? I guess. We'll see how it goes. Well, those are the picks for this week's the final week's Dana White Contender Series of this season, which is super sad to say. The Tuesdays have been fun to come home and watch. But anyway, those are the picks for you guys. And we will see you, I guess, technically on Tuesday. We're going to be dropping a video on Tuesday about the Michelle Pereira and Anthony Hernandez fight card this weekend. I'll be, yeah, I'll cover that. I'll cover that in the next video. But as far as that goes, there's the picks. Saucy Picks MMA. We out.